Hello everyone and welcome back to Agent Nagash, channel dedicated to Sigmar, and in this video we're going to be returning back to the Maggotkin of Nurgle in the Age of Sigmar Army Archive, and in particular we're going to be looking at their Demons of Nurgle units. So with no further ado, let us crack on. So we are going to firstly start with the most common foot soldier for your Demons of Nurgle, and that of course has got to be the Plague Bearers of Nurgle. So Plague Bearers of Nurgle, like I say, they are battle line in your army by any shape or form. They are, the common foot soldiers, like I say. You can take minimum size units of 10, max size units of 30. They cost you 120 points for 10 and 320 points for 30 because they benefit from the Mass Legion discount. So that means if you take a unit of 30, you're saving yourself 40 points. And yeah, the battle line, not unique, anything like that. Of course, they are the Plague Bearers. For Nurgle, Zeech has what is Pink Horrors, Khorne has Bloodletters, and Slaanesh has Demonettes. So the Plague Bearers are Nurgle's version of all the standard Chaos Godfoot soldiers, I suppose. So going into their War Scroll. So firstly, a unit of Plague Bearers has 10 or more models. They are armed with Vile Plague Swords. Now we're looking at their will stats. So 4-inch movement, a 5+ save, a bravery 10. And 1 wound. So looking at that, the only good thing is the bravery 10. Everything else is pretty poor. The 5+ save is expected for these sort of basic demons for the gods. We do not really expect anything more than that, to be honest. 4-inch movement does sound really slow. However, I've already talked about many ways to increase your movement in a Nurgle army, so you can go check that out on previous videos. Essentially, wheel corruption and some other things you can do to do it, like the bell for the Great Unclean One, which we'll get to in a moment. And 1 wound, yeah, standard. Okay, and then going into the melee weapons, so the Plague Sword, so this is their only one. It's got 1-inch range, 1 attack, 4 hit, 3 wound, no rend, and 1 damage. Sword, not too bad. I mean, there are better, attacks for this sort of style of demons for the other gods. However, as you'll see in a moment, Plague Bearers are much more resilient than they are offensive. So going into the rest of the description, so we've got the Plague Ridden, which is the leader of the unit. And it has 1 extra attack to its sword. Okay, that's cool, that's awesome. Because a lot of the things are like +1 to hit or something like that, which is just annoying because it just means you've got to roll the dice separately. So no, just an extra attack. Yeah, that's nice, I like that. We've got the Icon Bearer. So models in this unit can be Icon Bearers. If the unmodified roll is a 1 when making a battle shock test for this unit, that includes any Icon Bearers, no model from this unit flees. Instead, D6 Plague Bearers models are added to the unit. Yep, that is something which is common throughout all these, foot infantry for the great chaos gods. So yeah, that's great because you don't always roll 1, but when you do, from an opponent's point of view, it's really annoying because I don't know, you might have devastated that unit. You might have, unit of 30, you might have killed 20. You're reading forward to their battle shock test because you're hoping they're all going to die and run away, and then they roll 1, and then you just think, for fuck's sake, they're not just dying. They're getting D6 back, and of course they roll a 6 to get D6 back, and then they get 6 back. But from your side, if you are the Nurgle player, it's absolutely fantastic. It's 1 in a 6 chance, yes, unreliable, but of course still do it, because there might be situations where, I don't know, you've only lost 1 model in your Plague Bearer unit. Let's say, I don't know, okay, unit 30, you've lost 10 over time, during the battle, but for this particular turn you've only lost 1. Roll that dice anyway, because I know you can't fail the battle shock, but if you get that 1, you get D6 back, which is absolutely huge. So yeah, that is right. Okay, and then the next thing we've got are Pipers. So models in this unit can be Pipers. Reroll battle shock tests, rolls of 1 for enemy units, or while they are within 6 inches of any Pipers. Yeah, that's cool. Ways for you to be able to really sort of hit the enemy's bravery as hard as you can is great. I mean, I don't know if you're fighting against another Nurgle army and they roll 1 and they think, yes, I'm bringing D6 back from Plague Bearers, and you go, no, you can re-roll that. And then, yeah, so that would just be really annoying for them against any other Chaos army or other things. I think like Free Peoples, from what I remember, they roll 1 with their banners for Battle Shock. Nothing flees, I think that's always Free People. So yeah, it has got a lot of uses. Okay, then going into Respirability, so we've got Disgusting and Resilient. So I've talked about this before, but I'd mention it here, and then I won't really talk about it too much going forward. It's just me repeating myself. So, Disgustingly Resilient. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a model in this unit. On a 5+, the wound is negated. So that is why I say these things are much more durable than the other foot soldiers for the other Great Chaos Gods. I'm referred to them as foot soldiers. I think that's the best way to do it. You know, Bloodletters, Demonettes, and Pinkoras. Yeah, this is much more resilient than anything like that because, like I say, if you've got a chance to bring back your models and roll a 1, yeah, 1 in 6 chance, you've still got a chance doing it. And there are other ways for you to get, obviously, more saves for your models in your army. So we've got a 5-up save and then a 5-up save, just a built-in as standard. And then it gets even more durable when we get to the next bit, which is Cloud of Flies. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target this unit in the shooting phase. If this unit contains 20 or more models, subtract 2 from the hit rolls of attacks that target this unit in the shooting phase, and subtract 1 from hit rolls that attack this unit in the combat phase instead. So yeah, you've got a unit of 20 more of these, so unit of 30. Right, so you're -2 to hit them from shooting, you're -1 to hit them in combat, and they've got a 5-up save, and then they've got another 5-up save against all damage. So yeah, really, really durable. And the next ability we've got is Locus of Ferocity, which is real save rolls a 1 for this unit while it's within 7 inches of a Nurgle Demon Hero. There you go. You get a free Mystic Shield for this unit if it's within 7 inches of a Demon Hero, and that's not wholly within, it's just within. So easy to do that, really easy. So these guys have got a 5-up save, rerolling 1, and then a 5-up additional save. But also remember, if you're trying to shoot them, you're -2 to hit if they've got 20 more models. If you're trying to hit them in combat when they've got 20 more models, you might want to hit them there as well. So lovely and a pain in the arse for your opponent to deal with. And then lastly, looking at the keywords, which is Chaos, Demon, Plague Bearer, Nurgle, and Plague Bearer. So the Plague Bearer keyword must come in for a few things. So I imagine like they're, you know, some of the small demon heroes, heralds, all that sort of thing, and probably Plague Bearer as well. So do I think they're worth 120 points? Yes, I absolutely do. I think they are almost a steal for that, just because of how durable they are. Now, if you ask me, are they really good at wiping out enemy units? No, they're not really. Yeah, you take 30 of them. Yeah, they chuck a lot of attacks out, but that's not really what they're there for. There are ways for you to make them more combat effective that we've already talked about, but they are not. That's not their purpose. If you want that, you're looking at, you know, your Blight Kings. You've also got things, you know, Plague Drones and stuff like that. Because remember how I'm splitting these videos, how I'm talking about Demons and Nurgle in this video, and then last video I talked about, for the Maggotkin of Nurgle, of course, the Rotbringers for Nurgle. And I don't mean like you take one army or the other. It all mixes together, but I'm splitting them up like that so it's easier to do the videos. So just remember, you can mix and share everything. Okay, so these guys, 120 points is definitely worth it, in my own honest opinion. So we're going to go to something a bit smaller now, but when I say small, I just mean physically, but emotionally and, how should we say it, characterally, they are massive and full with excitement and acknowledgement from every other being that ever comes across them, and soon not to forget them if they survive. And that, of course, means the Nurglings, who are little bundles of joy. So, Nurglings first off. Now, they're not going to be anything like a hero or anything, of course. They're literally just a minimum-sized unit of 3 maximum units of 12. They're 100 points for free. They are not battle line, so they are another unit, and they're not unique. So, going into Nurglings, so we've got a description, which is a unit of Nurglings has 3 or more models. Nurgling attacked with their tiny razor-sharp teeth. Okay, so I'll just cover this here now as well, in case it makes anything confusing later on. I just said you can have a minimum size unit of 3, max size unit of 12, and now I've just read the description. It says it needs 3 or more. Now, if you're playing anything but match play, that's absolutely fine. Have as many of these little fuckers you want in a unit. But if you're playing match play, how I review everything as if it is match play, you can't have any more than 12. And to be fair, 12 is quite a lot. So, yeah, especially how, you know, we could take one of those Maggot Lords we looked at, who can, I think it was twice born, who means that he can just add like Nurgle Lin bases to them as well, which is cool. It's just nice. Okay, so going into the Nurglings, looking at their wheel stats, we've got a 5-inch movement, 6+ save, bravery 10, 4 wounds. A lot of wounds there, to be fair, for each base, so that's nice. And everything else is just okay. Tiny razor, sharp teeth, so 1-inch range, 5 attacks, 5 hit, 5 wound, no range, 1 damage. Yep, so it's one of those where it reminds me of Bat Swarms for the Legions of Nagash, you know, Death Army, where they are very much the same as the sense of loads of attacks. Not really going to get through, but loads of attacks and 1 might. But as you'll see, you don't need too many of these to go through to cause your enemy some hassle. So going into the abilities, we've got Disease-Ridden Demise. So at the end of the combat phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit that was allocated any wounds caused by a unit of Nurglings. In the combat phase, on a 2+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Yes, you only need to do 1 attack go through to them to do like a mortal wound to them, which I know isn't great, but you know, it's an additional thing. Cool. And then the next thing we've got is Endless Swarm. So at the end of each Battleshock phase, heal any wounds that have been allocated to this unit. So it's similar to the Bat Swarms of Death. However, the Bat Swarms need to cause that wound to be able to do that. These guys just like, nah, we're just going to heal all our wounds. And because they've got 4 wounds apiece, that can actually be quite a lot. They heal a maximum of 3 wounds potentially by doing that. Okay, and the next one we've got is Hidden Infestation. Instead of setting up this unit on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say it is set up as a hidden infestation of Nurglings. If you do so at the end of your first movement phase, set up the unit anywhere on the battlefield so that it is in cover and more than 9 inches from any enemy models. Okay, so it's just a way for you guys basically to deep strike these in. It's a way for your opponent not to really know too much about where you want to put them and all that sort of thing. So it is good. It's a little trick you have up your sleeve, which, you know, fits the Nurglings very well. You can literally fit the Nurglings up the sleeve and deploy them that way, which could be very exciting as well, just not for your opponent. And yeah, anything that allows you to do movement, mischiefs, even if it's just like how it deploys, is huge in this game, as this game is all about movement. Okay, and then going on to keywords, we've got Chaos Demon, Nurgle, and Nurglings. So Nurglings for 100 points. Are they worth it? They can be, yeah. They are. They can tie down the enemy really well. They're not going to wipe things out again, but they're durable. And durable is something, and in particular, it is a word that I will be repeating continuously throughout talking about Nurgle, and in particular with their demons, because they are definitely really are quite tough to try and take down. Okay, so that was the Nurglings. Now we are going to move on to the next one, and this is going to be much bigger than the little Nurglings we looked at. And this, of course, is going to be our Plague Drone. So you take the min-sized units of 3, max-sized units of 12, and they cost 200 points for free. So firstly, 200 points for 3 models is a lot. So let's see what you're going to get from it. So Plague Drones. So the description is that Plague Drones has 3 or more models. The rotflies stab their enemies with venomous stings and either lash at their foe with predecessor briticles, basically their legs they stab at the enemy with, or bite with foul mouthparts. Their plague bearer riders swing plague swords and throw violent death heads. So let's have a look at their will stats. So we've got an 8-inch movement, a 5+ save, bravery 10, and 5 wounds. So they're, the plague drones are the demon version of the plague lords and stuff we looked at for the mortals in the last video. So that will stat, yeah, movement's the same as those ones, obviously the same fly, isn't it? Save of 5 would be nice if it's a 4, but like we say, they're very durable, so we'll let that slide. Wounds 5, yeah, that's okay. Bravery 10, obviously that's good. Okay, so going into their missile weapons, so they've got 1 missile weapon and then they've got 4 melee weapons. So the first one, like I say, is going to be the missile weapon we look at, and this is Death Head. So 14-inch range, 1 attack, 4 hit, 3 wound, no rend, 1 damage. How I look at this, it's a shooting attack, don't complain, it doesn't have any rend. It's to hit and to wound, characteristics aren't bad. And yeah, just take it. And the range isn't bad. It's like mid-range, isn't it? Okay, and then going into their melee weapons, we've got the Plague Sword. So this is 1-inch range, 1 attack, 4 hit, 3 win, no rend, and 1 damage. And then the Fredehental... Okay, the legs. I don't want to keep on saying that because I can't pronounce it. So the legs. 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3 hit, 4 win, no rend, and 1 damage. The next one is Foul Mouthparts. This is a 1-inch range, 2 attacks, 3 hit, 3 wound, no rend, and 1 damage. And then the Venomous Sting, which is 1-inch range, 1 attack, 4 hit, 3 wound, -1 rend, and D3 damage. Okay, so looking at it all, the attacks aren't amazing because there's a lack of rend there. Only the Venomous Sting does have a rend, that's D3 damage, that is nice, we only get 1 per model. However, you are chucking a lot of attack at the enemy. In total, we'll just look at the combat ones in total. That's 7 attacks each model's making against the enemy. It's quite a lot with not bad to wound and to hit characteristics. Like the Foul Mouthparts, for example, is a 3 and a 3. And there are ways, obviously, for you to boost the amount of attacks you make with this, as we've already looked at. And yeah, it's a really good way to do it. Right, and then moving on to their abilities. So firstly, they can fly, and they've got the Plague Bringer, which we've looked at before, gives you an extra attack for the leader for their Plague Sword. Not everything, just remember that, it's just for their Plague Sword. For the Icon Bearers, so models in this unit can be Icon Bearers. If the unmodified roll is a 1 when making a battleship test for this unit, that includes any Icon Bearers, no models from this unit flee. 1 Plague Drone model was added to this unit. Yep, cool. So it's like the Plague Bearers one, but obviously not as good because they're Plague Drones and they're a lot more expensive points wise. And then a Bell Toller. So models in this unit can be Bell Tollers. Reroll battleship tests of 1 for enemy units while they are within 6 inches of a Bell Toller. Yeah, so the same as the Plague Bearers, and I said that's good, especially against other demon armies. Okay, and then we've got ability, so Disgusting Resilience. So like I said, gives you a 5 up after damage save, so 5 up ward save. Fantastic, makes this guys more durable. And Locus of Contagion. Add 1 to the attack characteristics of this unit and weapons while it is within 7 inches of a friendly demon Nurgle hero, or a Nurgle demon hero as it is written on the war scroll. Yep, that's really easy to do. It's the same as we saw for the Plague Bearers, apart from you get to add 1 to your attacks instead. And it's not just for their swords, it's literally for everything. So like I said before, when I said, or each one of them is making, 7 attacks each, now each one of those is making 11 attacks each. And there are other ways, I think Blaze Putrefaction is it called, to get you extra attacks and stuff. So that's absolutely insane amount of attacks just from like one model. And you can really start to see where these guys come in points. And yeah, so I'm looking at, to the attack characteristics, so that's also their shooting weapons as well, it's also the death heads. Okay, and then moving on to keywords, we've got Chaos Demon, Plague Bearer, Nurgle, and Plague Drones. So looking at them, do I think they're worth 200 points? I say if you don't really add the synergy up to them, if you don't put them in range to get the extra attacks and all this, probably not. But as soon as they start getting those extra attacks, they are really one of the most hardest hitting unit you have in your army, in your disposal, in this book anyway. To be honest, because there's nothing really that much I can chuck that many attacks to them at the enemy, unless you take, Blight Kings and all that sort of thing. For something that's fast as well, so you can get to the enemy turn 1 because you can put a necklet Narn oil so you can make them move fast, so they run and charge that way. Have the Wheel Corruption on the one that gives you +2 to movement, and have the Bell nearby these guys to make them incredibly fast. Get that turn 1 charge. Someone's done that against me before. They had a unit of 9 of these and they charged me, and it was a massive hard pain to get rid of. And literally got to the end of the game and there was 1 left and 2 wounds because I didn't kill. I didn't get the points for it, kill points, and it was a massive pain just because of how much damage they could take. And that's not saying about how many wounds they got, it's just how many ways they can shrug off that damage, even though I was attacking with so many things of Fuse Rend and all that sort of thing. But yeah, the Rend, chuck -2 Rend at them, that means they don't get a normal save, but they're still going to get the Disgusting Resilience save. And a 5 up just means they save against 1/3 of all damage you chuck at them. So yeah, they are offensive and durable. Like I say, not the most offensive thing in the game, of course, but one of the most offensive things you have got for your Nurgle, and also still retaining that defensive capability, which is very traditional with Nurgle as well. Okay, and then with that, we're going to move on to the Beasts of Nurgle. So the Beasts of Nurgle, so these are your lovely little creatures of Nurgle that run around in the garden, all that sort of thing, and love to play with people who accidentally wander into Nurgle's little garden. So if we have a look at the Beasts of Nurgle, so they're going to cost you 80 points for 1. You take them minimum size units of 1 and maximum size units of 6. And yeah, 80 points for 1, not too bad, not too expensive. It's not like Morgoth's Archive, which are now I think like 100 points for 1 if you break them down that way. So let's have a look to see what you get with them. So looking at the description, a unit of Beasts of Nurgle has any number of models. So Beasts of Nurgles unintentionally rend and crush their victims with their claws and tentacles, and poison them with their slobbery tongues. Love that. The best thing about that is that how it says unintentionally, because they just want to run up and play, like a very bouncy, cuddly dog, but it's got a bit more teeth and jagged edges and disease and acid and when it melts its play buddy, it can just cuddle them up even more and roll on them and all that sort of thing. So it has fun nonetheless. Right, okay, they've got a 5-inch movement, they've got a 5+ save, bravery 10, and 7 wounds. Looking at the will stats there, the best thing there, 7 wounds. That makes them, 7 wounds is a lot actually. I thought these were going to be 5 wounds, so yep, that's good. And then looking at their melee weapons, so they've got claws and tentacles. This is 1-inch range, D6 attacks, 4 to hit, 3 to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. So we've got the slobbering tongue next, with 2-inch range, 1 attack, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, D3 damage. Massive like lack of rend there, but like I said, it's a common thing to see for Nurgle. The attacks, incredibly swing and miss. Not as much as a Chaos Spawn or anything like that, but for 80 points, the attacks aren't that good, in my opinion. Right, okay, and then going into the abilities, so we've got Assassin's Resilience, so 5-up ward save. Then the next one we've got Acidic Slime Trail, so roll a dice for each enemy unit that is within 3 inches of this unit immediately before this unit makes a retreat move. On a 4+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So it's almost like, yeah, just make this thing retreat out of combat. It's going to probably cause more damage to the enemy than it actually fighting. Right, then the next one we've got is Attention Seeker. So this unit can charge the same turn in which it ran or retreated. Okay, so the important thing there is that obviously Nicolent Farnell is the, I think I pronounce the name every time wrong, but the trees you get for Nurgle, they let you run in charge. I'm not too sure if they make you retreat in charge, I can't remember off the top of my head. However, with that in mind, it means that these guys basically get that ability even if they're not in range of the tree, so just something there. So a lot of your arms already got access to that, but not completely. And then the next thing we've got is Locus of Vigilance. So add 1 to the damage characteristics of this unit's melee weapons while it is within 7 inches of a friendly Nurgle demon hero. Okay, so that is very easy to put off, like the other things we've looked at. And it's cool to see that's carried over a lot of all the, or every other unit we've looked at apart from the Nurglings. This is carried over in some shape or form. And like I said, their attacks for the Beast of Nurgles aren't good. With this, now they are. Now that makes them worth the 80 points. And yeah, that's for me, that ability has saved them. Otherwise, I'd say not worth taking. That ability has definitely saved them in my honest opinion if you want to go for them. And then they've got keywords, Chaos Demon Nurgle, and of course, Beasts of Nurgle. So what are my honest opinions on them? I think, yeah, if you make sure they're in range of a hero, they can get some damage done. They're quite good. Wouldn't take them units size of like 1. I'll take them units of 3 or something like that. The enemy can pick on them, but they've got that 5-up extra damage save, haven't they? So yeah, pretty durable as well. But if I am being absolutely honest, I don't like the models. I think they're absolutely disgusting. To be honest, that's my own personal opinion. I'm really not a fan of the models, and I know that's the sort of Nurgle theme, but I don't know. If you look at Bile Trolls from Forge World, or if you look at Plague Ogres as well from Forge World, they're big, brutish Nurgle creatures, but the Beasts of Nurgle, they just look too cartoony for me, if I'm honest. That's not a fan of that, but, each to their own on that one. So, going on to the next unit, and we are going to start looking at heroes. The first hero we're going to look at is going to be the Slotty Bile Piper. If I can pronounce his name correctly throughout reading his review, I will be most happy, as I do feel like some of these names Games Workshop has made has just been intentionally to try and make dyslexics annoyed somewhat. Because the Slotty Bile Piper, Herald of Nurgle, to be fair, that one's not too hard. I think the other ones I struggle with more. But anyway, going on with the review. He's a leader, of course. Takes minimum size units of 1, maximum size units of 1, obviously because he's a leader. And he is 90 points. Okay, so let's see what we're going to get for 90 points here. So, description, a Slotty Bile Piper is a single model and is armed with a Marotter. So, looking at his will stats, 4-inch movement, 4+ save, bravery 10 and 5 wins. 4+ save is quite cool. Everything else is standard. Next thing, the Marotter, or Marotter, however it is pronounced, which got a 1-inch range, 4 attacks, force to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend, 2 damage. Not bad for a support hero. That costs you only 90 points. And then going into the abilities, so the first one, Assassin's Resilience, a 5 ward save, cool. Next one is Disease of Mirth. So add 1 to the bravery characteristic of friendly Nurgle units while they are within 7 inches of a Slotty Bile Piper. In addition, subtract 1 from bravery characteristics of enemy units while they are within 7 inches of any Slotty Bile Pipers. So that is good as well, because I would say, well, because your demons are really good bravery anyway, being bravery 10, now you're making them bravery 11, and the enemy's more negative bravery. And bear in mind your like pipers and stuff for your plague bearers, etc., are going to make the enemy's bravery worse. Well, for battleship tests anyway. So that is good. Okay, and then the next one we've got is a Jolly Guts Pipe. So reroll failed charge rolls and hit rolls of 1 for friendly Nurglings and great unclean ones that are within 7 inches of any Slotty Bile Piper. So like I say, that's a supportive. That's its role in your army. If you're not taking any great unclean ones, or you're not taking any Nurglings in your army at all, then is he worth it? I'm not really too sure. But then again, I seem to be predominantly comparing them for taking it in a pure demon army, which you might not be, because like if you're not, then your putrid Blightkins and your plus Goyle Blight Lords obviously may benefit from the +1 bravery, but they've already got bravery 8, so +1 bravery, bravery 9. So they may not need it. But in conclusion, I would say take this guy. If you're taking your Great Unclean Ones and your Nurglings, you're taking them out for a bit of a walk in the park or in the Garden of Nurgle, as it's called. And maybe there's some like people enter the garden or weren't so friendly. The Bowl Piper with his big mate, the Great Unclean One, and his little friends, the Nurglings, could be the units to take to not fight the enemy, but show them how wonderful life can be from the perspective of Nurgle. Right, okay, and then moving on to the next one, and this is going to be Spoilpox Scrivener, Herald of Nurgle. So yeah, it is quite clear that I cannot pronounce that one to save my life at any time soon. So looking at it, it is quite simply a one model, because obviously it's a leader, and it is 90 points. So the same points as the last one. So let's see what we're going to get for its 90 points. So firstly, looking at its description, a Spoilpox is what I'm going to refer to it as a single model. It sprays corrosive filth over the enemy with its disgusting seizures, and it bites any foes that stray too close with its horrible distempered maw. So, looking at its will stats, it has a 4-inch movement, a 4+ save, bravery 10 and 5 wounds, the same as the last one for the same reasons. And then the next thing we're going to look at is weapons. We've got 2 here, 1 missile one and then 1 melee one. So the first one is Disgusting Sneeze. So this is a range of 6 D6 attacks, 3 to hit, 4 to wound, no rend, 1 damage. So not the best attack, but D6, so that's pretty cool. Bear in mind it is literally a sneeze. So I mean, my sneezes, well, they feel pretty strong when I do have to sneeze. However, they're not nearly as strong as D6 attack sort of potential. Right, the next thing to look at is its melee weapon. So this is this Tended Maw. So this is 2-inch range, 2 attacks, 3 to hit, also with -1 rend, 2 damage. Yeah, not bad. And then looking at its abilities, so we've got the Disgustingly Resilient, so the 5-up ward save. And then the next one we've got is Keep Counting, I'm Watching You. And this allows you to re-roll dice rolls of 1 when making charge rolls for friendly Plague Bearer units while they are within 7 inches of this model. In addition, re-roll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Plague Bearer units while they are within 7 inches of this model. The lovely thing about this book is there's so many within 7 inches and not wholly within a range. So you can get these abilities off really easily. And yeah, if you want to take a bunch of Plague Bearers, definitely take this guy. Don't even hesitate about if I should take him, if or not, is he going to fit into this? Just take this guy. Do it if you're taking a lot of Plague Bearers. If you're not taking Plague Bearers at all really in your army, then I wouldn't go for Spoilpox. I don't think he's not worth it. He's there for, he does a job, does a good job at it. You know, he's very good at counting and it's very good at sneezing. 2 fantastic attributes, I do feel. However, if they are not required for a particular task, then you are probably best avoided and saved him until later. You know what it's like when you need to go for a sneeze and then suddenly you stop and then you can't. It's a really annoying feeling. You don't want to take this guy, think he's going to be really good at sneezing for the enemy army, and then realise he doesn't need to, and then it's that awkward sort of feeling that you've got inside you. That's a pain. Right, so looking at his keywords, we've got Chaos Demon, Plague Bearer, Nurgle, Hero, and then Spoilpox. Not going to pronounce the rest of the name. So yes, some very interesting keywords there. Very standard, very much like the same ones I just read, apart from the name that I'm not going to pronounce. Right, so that is him. The next one we're going to look at is the Poxbringer Herald of Nurgle, who is a leader for 120 points, so 30 points more than the last time we just seen. A third more of their own points more. So what are you going to get for him? So the description for him is a single model. It wields a repulsive bale sword that sweeps a vile toxin. So a 4-inch movement, 4+ save, and bravery 10 with 5 wounds. So that's exactly the same as the last two. So don't see any increase there. Why paying the extra points? And then looking at the middle weapons, we've got the bale sword. So a 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend, D3 damage. Yeah, not bad. And then looking at the abilities, so we've got Disgustingly Resilient. So roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this model. On a 5+, that wound is negated, just to make sure that you guys, if you're just joining now, watching the video, you remember what Disgustingly Resilient is. Okay, and then we've got In Death, there is life. So at the start of your hero phase, if this model is friend or foe, where slain in the last turn, you can heal 1 wound allocated to a friendly Nurgle demon unit within 7 inches of this model. This is not going to break the game at all. in the slightest. However, it's a cool little nifty ability, isn't it? It's not going to make any difference, but the main hardest trick about this ability will be trying to remember it. If you can remember it, it'll help you out. It won't really change anything, it won't swing the tide of the game, but it'll help you. Okay, and then the reason why he's more expensive, this one, is because he's a wizard, of course, so a magic. So a Poxbringer is a wizard. You can attempt to cast one spell in your hero phase and attempt to unbind one spell in the enemy hero phase. It knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Eruptive Infestation spells. So let's have a look at Eruptive Infestation salary. So, as a casting value of 6, if successfully cast, pick an enemy unit that is within 7 inches of a friendly Plague Bearer unit that is visible to the caster. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Okay, so the cool thing about this is that it doesn't have to be within 7 inches of this guy. It's literally you're going to pick one of your Plague Bearer units that could be up the board and then do it. So it's like how the Arcane Bolt used to be. When I'm saying that, I mean just purely a D3 mortal wounds factor. So you can do D3 mortal wounds to the enemy technically anywhere on the board if you've got the Plague Bearers there, which is cool, because you can, let's say your Plague Bearers traditionally have crashed into the enemy's front line, but it's quite hard for you to get around it to do some damage to the heroes behind. But this guy is like, I don't know, 30 inches back or something, but you can choose that Plague Bearer unit and then do 7 inches from them to pick the enemy hero that's being annoying if it's visible to them to make them suffer D4 mortal wounds. Yeah, it's cool, but if I'm honest, I prefer the other Heralds of Nurgle so far because I think they have a better specific role. This guy's a wizard, don't get me wrong, wizards are great, but you're going to have wizards in your army anyway, I think, so I'm not too sure if you need the Herald. Well, when I say the Herald, I mean the Poxbringer. Sure, it's not bad, but he's 120 points or 90 points to the others, and they're not wizards, the two others, but they all sort of the newer models, aren't they, which makes them a bit cooler. And one of them's called a Slotty Bile Piper, so what is not to like about that? But anyway, going back to the Poxbringer, he's got keywords Chaos, Demon, Plague Bearer, Nurgle, Hero, Poxbringer, Herald of Nurgle. So in summary, I think I prefer the other two. For this guy, I think 120 points, when you compare him to the other two, is that too expensive? Well, you got to remember, he is a wizard, so it does need to be expensive, but no, I don't see it, in all honesty. He's another person that can cast the the spell to let you change the wheel contagion. That is true. It's another way to do that. But I think I'm just going to look. If I was doing a full-out Maggotkin Of Nurgle army and I wasn't using Tucken Horde, I would do, like I said, Blight Lords. I've already made that quite clear. The Blight Kings, but wider than the flies, and Great Unclean Ones. That's probably the way I would go. And the Great Unclean Ones can already do magic, so with that in mind, do I really need this extra guy to do some magic? Well, the Great Unclean Ones can cast like 2 spells as an example. Maybe not, but it's something that you would play test and see if you needed him. He could also be something you summon in later. Right, so with that, we're going to move on to our next one, and this is going to be sticking with the Plague Bearer theme. We are going to look at, moving on to the named characters, of course, Hortulux Slimux. So this is the Gardener of Nurgle. So this is literally the horticultural most subject of Nurgle himself. He very much cares for the garden, very much likes growing his own crops. He's very organic, incredibly organic. Doesn't really like putting pesticides and things. Not really his thing. He is your organic, traditional farmer. Okay, so how many points though is he going to cost us? That does usually tell if we take anything in this game. So it's going to cost you 220 points, and obviously he is a one model leader. So going into his war scroll, we've got the descriptions of Hortulux Slimux is a single model. He is armed with a huge pair of lopping shears that he uses to snip his enemies in half, and rides upon the back of a muculous demon beast called Mulch that snaps at its foes with its slime encrusted jaws. So looking at his will stats, he's got a 5-inch movement, a save of 3+, 10 bravery and 8 wounds. I was going to say save 3+, that's cool, but this guy's costing you 220 points, so yep, you need that, especially if you've only got 8 wounds. And then looking at his melee weapons, the first one is Lopping Shears, so this is a 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, minus 1 rend, D3 damage. And then Mulch's slime encrusted jaws is a 1-inch range, D3 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, minus 2 rend, and 2 damage. the attack's alright, but not, 220 points. Okay, I'm hoping this guy has got other things rather than just attacks, because they're not that amazing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I used to be a landscape gardener, so I know one or two things about gardening. And you do need your good set of loppers. You do need them to be able to, in this case, cut enemies in half. With that, can he do it if the enemies don't have one wound? If the enemies have got a really good save, if he's going to struggle to cut through Stormcast armor, then that is a problem. So, looking at the abilities, we've got Disgusting Resilience, so 5-up ward save. We've got Acidic Slime, so this is the one where, I'll just read it, it's easier to explain it. So, roll a dice to each enemy unit that is within 3 inches of this model, immediately before this model makes a retreat move. On a 4+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. That's cool, could do a few mortal wounds that way. Then we've got Beast Handler, so reroll failed charge rolls of 1 for friendly Beasts of Nurgle units while they are within 7 inches of Hololux Slimucks. So bear in mind that they can run in charge anyway, those Beasts of Nurgle units, and then this gives them some rerolls of the 1 to do those charges. Absolutely cool. If you want to take a bunch of Beasts of Nurgle, this is going to be a guy. Definitely have him in your list. Okay, and then we've got In Death, there is the life cycle at the start of your hero phase. If any model's friend or foe was slain in the last turn, you can heal 1 wound allocated to a friendly Nurgle demon unit within 7 inches of Hololux Slimucks. So I've already read this one out before for the one of the heralds, the last herald I just looked at. The one thing about this, and like I say, the hardest thing with this is going to be remembering, because at the start of a hero phase, this for me, this would be something I would remember, like if I was lucky halfway through my hero phase and I'd read it and say at the start and be like, oh well, I forgot, I'll try and remember that for next time. So try and remember it. But yeah, solid way of being able to try and heal wounds back to your models. And might not seem much, but like I say, it's not game changing, but just healing that extra wound to a model, you never know. In a turn down the line in the game, it might be that one model who's managed to hold that objective because he's left on 1 wound. That's because it was a wound that you healed back to him earlier. It all adds up, doesn't it? So do try and remember that. And the last bit is Cultivating the Garden of Nurgle. So once during the battle, at the start of your hero phase, you can set up a Fulcrum Narnor within 3 inches of Hololux Slimucks and more than 1 inch away from any other models and terrain features. Okay, so this guy, okay, I'll go for the keywords as well. So we got Chaos Demon, Plague Bearer, Nurgle Hero, Hololux Slimucks. So is he worth 220 points? Bear in mind he's unique, so he can't have an artifact command trait. Is he worth it? If you're not taking any Beasts of Nurgle in your army, I'd probably say he's not worth it, in all honesty, because like I say, I don't just say everything's great, I am quite honest. So yeah, I don't think it's worth it. Let me know if you agree differently. I think he's really cool. He's got such an awesome model. Him riding his snail. But he's got a cool name as well. I mean, I'd enjoy saying Hololux Slimucks, couldn't even pronounce it there for a second. But I would, yeah, he is cool. He's not bad, but I think you're going to... If you really want to make a tight, list that you want to make competitive, you might struggle to justify putting this guy in there. That's all I'm going to say. But he's very, very cool. Right, if you're a Nurgle fan, I would definitely buy one, because he's not bad in the game, but he's just not the most effective thing for his points you can put in your army. If you're not taking Beasts of Nurgle. If you are taking a load of Beasts of Nurgle, then yeah, check this guy in, he helps them out. Right, okay, so the next one we're going to now look at is another named hero, and this is going to be, and apologies for the unpreventable butcher of a name, Epidemus Talaman of Nurgle. Now I can say Talaman of Nurgle, so that's how I'm going to be referring to this guy. Right, so he is a named character, so no artifacts, nothing like that. He's obviously a leader, and he is going to cost you 200 points. So let's see what we're going to get for those 200 points. This guy does add a fair bit to your army, so I love that. Anything that gives synergy to your army is fantastic. So looking at his description, so he is a single model. He is armed with a malignant bale sword and is carried into battle atop a palanquin by a horde of Nurglings, which attack nearby enemies with their tiny razor-sharp teeth. So looking at the melee weapons, we've got 2. We've got the bale sword and we've got the razor-sharp teeth, which are also tiny. So looking at the bale sword, so 1 inch range, 3 attacks, 3 hit, 3 wound, minus rend D3 damage. So yeah, not crazy good, but if you see this guy, he is very sort of immobile on his chair, and he's just going to fling whatever comes near him with his sword, isn't he? Like a fat king. Okay, so we've got that, and then we've got the tiny razor sharp teeth, which is a 1 inch range, 5 attacks, 5 hit, 5 wound, no rend and 1 damage. Standard Nurgling attack, isn't it? Okay, so looking at the abilities, Disgusting Resilience, so we've got the 5 ward save. And then we've got Nurgle's Tallyman. So keep a tally number of enemy models that have been slain by friendly Nurgle units during the battle. At the start of each of your hero phases, consult the following table to see what benefits are bestowed upon friendly Nurgle units. So looking at this, so models slain, so if 0 to 6 models have been slain, there is no effect, and bear in mind they have to be slain by Nurgle models and units. So if you play against an army that has a horde, you know, obviously a horde army is going to be good for you. But on the other side, if you play against an elite army, it's obviously not going to be as good. So like I say, if 0 to 6 models have been slain, there is no effect. Okay, and then the next one, if there is 7 to 13 models that have been slain, reroll wound rolls of 1. And then if it's 14 to 20, reroll hit rolls of 1. And if it's 21 plus, receive 1 extra contagion point in each of your hero phases. So what you got to remember is that this is on your entire army. It's not just this hero, it's on everything in your army that is Nurgle. And then you realise this is actually really quite impactful. However, these bonuses are cumulative and last for the rest of the battle, but ends if the hero is slain. So as soon as the Tallyman of Nurgle is dead, you lose all of these. Now, I really like this because I've told you I love synergy, and this guy offers the most synergy. And when I say offers the most, I mean in the term of how it benefits your whole army. There is no range to this, it's just your whole Nurgle units in your army. Very important there, it's only your Nurgle units. If you ally something else in, it's not going to benefit just your Nurgle. But yeah, that's really, really cool. And does that make him worth the 200 points? I'd have to play test it, because I want to say yes, but I'd have to play test it to actually find out. But I'd like to think so. He could be, because I mean, Nurgle, like I say, it's not the most killy army in the world, but it can certainly, well, if you're looking at the first thing, you just need to kill 7 models. And you get those rerolls of 1s to wound. Yeah, that's cool. And then kill 14 to 20. Rerolls 1s to hit. Fantastic. And 21. Plus, then you get 1 more contagion point and start your turn. I would argue that I'd rather have the rerolls to hit of 1 and reroll to wound of 1 than the extra contagion point by that point, because you probably don't really need them. But it's still an extra good thing. Okay, and then looking at the keywords, we've got Chaos Demon, Plague Bearer, Nurgle Hero, and then Tallyman of Nurgle. So this guy is cool. He's not just one of those named characters which is just like, oh, he's crap. This guy, I think, is worth testing at the least. Hopefully he's cool. If you guys field him, let me know, as I'll be interested to hear. So I think he does add a fair bit to your army. Even if it's just one ability, the fact that it affects your whole Nurgle army is really quite big, I think. I'm not saying it's going to be game-changing or make you win the game at all, but certainly will help in those two things. Okay, so with that, we're then going to move on to the things that are much bigger. And this, of course, is going to be moving on to the Great Unclean Ones. And the first one we're going to look at is your standard Great Unclean One, and then we'll come to Roticus at the end. So, the Great Unclean One, the almost embodiment of what the Grandfather Nurgle would look like. So, he's going to cost you 340 points. He's a leader and a behemoth. And also, the important thing is he is not a named character in any way. Has many of these as you like, and there are different variants that you may want to, different battalions and all of these sorts of things we'll get to in a later video. Right, okay, so looking at him anyway, looking at the description, a Great Unclean One is a single model. It carries a large plague flail or a bile blade in one hand, and a massive bile sword or a doomsday bell in the other, and can vomit forth streams of noxious bile. A host of Nurgling caper about the Great Unclean One's feet, attacking with a razor-sharp teeth. Right, okay, so looking at its movement, a 5-inch movement, not fast at all for a monster. We've talked about there are ways to increase the movement, and that includes this model as well. 4+ save, a bravery 10 and 16 wounds. 16 wounds, that is a lot. More than any other greater demon there is out there. When I say other greater demon, just to get it right, I don't mean Exalted Ones and Forge World, I just mean the other 3, the Keeper of Secrets, Lord of Change, and Bloodthirster from Games Workshop. So yeah, it's got a lot of wounds, and don't compare this to Scarbanks, I can't remember if he's got 16 wounds. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that he's very durable. Right, okay, so then going on to his weapons. Now, there are a lot here. So we have got a 1 missile weapon, which is the Noxus Bile. So this is 7-inch range, a D6 attacks, 3 to hit, 2 to wound, but that attack is a star characteristic, so refer to the damage table as it will get harder. -2 random, 1 damage. Was doing so well until we got to the 1 damage. 2 damage would be nice, but this guy isn't known for his range attack, so yeah, the -2 render is nice there, and to hit into wound characteristics is super good. Okay, now going into the melee weapons. Now there are 5 here. Now, like we said, there's different ways you can load this out, so I'm going to read through all of them, but remember you can't equip them all. So we've got the Plague Fail. So this is 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3 to hit, a 2 to wound. Again, that will get harder as it takes more damage, as it's a star characteristic. -1 rend and 2 damage. Not bad there. Okay, the next one we've got is the Bile Sword. So 2-inch range, starting with 3 attacks, 4 to hit, 3 to wound, -2 rend and 3 damage. Yeah, nice attack there. The next one we've got is the Bile Blades. This is 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend and 1 damage. Then we've got the Doomsday Bell, which is 2-inch range, 4 attacks, 4 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend and 1 damage. Which I think should be 2, because I think you got hit by that massive fucking bell. It would hurt a bit more. But anyway, going on to the Host of Nurgle, so it's obviously a 1-inch range, 3 attacks. Okay, it's not 5, but only 3. 5 to hit, 5 to wound, no rend and 1 damage. And then going on to the abilities, as that does explain what some of those weapons are for. So the first one is Blubber and Bile. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this model. On a 5+, the wound is negated, so it gets disgusting resilience, but in addition, if the roll is a 6+, and it is in the combat phase, the attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound after all of its attacks have been made. Cool, so a big base here. If the enemy swamps him, chucks loads of attacks with him, you're probably going to get a few 6s. So yeah, just more mortal wounds to the enemy. Absolutely awesome. The next one we've got is Corruption Mass. So in your hero phase, you can heal D3 wounds that have been allocated to this model. Fantastic. That's all there is to say about that. Yep, great. Okay, the next one we've got is a Mountain of Loathsome Flesh. So roll a dice for each enemy unit that is within 1 inch of this model after this model completes a charge move. On a 4+, the enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Yep, that's cool, because the amount of that flesh and blubber and fat just charging into it would cause you some serious damage. Right, the next ability, as there are quite a few here, is Putrid Offering. So if this model has a Bile Blade and attempts to cast or unbind a spell, you can say that it is using the Bile Blade to hook out a portion of its own rotting guts as an offering to Nurgle. If you do so, this model immediately suffers 1 mortal wound, which cannot be negated, but you can then add 1 to the casting or unbinding rolls. Cool. That's nice. That's a really decent way, because like I say, you're taking 1 mortal wound, but this thing heals D3 in your hero phase, so it's got a chance of healing that wound back. It's automatically going to heal that wound back if it hadn't taken any damage before that. And then if it has taken some damage, I don't know, a couple of wounds, you do a mortal wound to yourself, you've got a 5+ against mortal wounds, and then, yeah, you've got this. Yeah, so this guy is pretty goddamn survivable, even when he's cutting into his own flesh. And yeah, to increase your casting and binding, it's not just it's good, it's definitely needed, with so many ways out there to do the very same. Or the Gash, for example, gets +3 to cast, Arcan gets +2, Zeech obviously get many ways pluses to cast, and there are other armies that can do the same as well. Okay, so the next ability we're going to look at, Reverberating Summons. I don't think that's pronounced right, but anyway, so if Nurgle units begin its movement phase within 7 inches of this model with a Doomsday Bell, add 3 to its move characteristic until the end of that phase. This is such a good ability, to the point where I've literally mentioned it every time I've talked about any other unit in this book, saying that have this guy, gives you +3 to your movement. So I'm just going to say it out now. If I take Great and Clear 1, I'll give it the bell, especially if I was only taking 1. If you're taking 2, the second one, not necessarily give it the bell, but if it's only taking 1 of your list, definitely give it the bell for sure. Okay, and then looking at the command ability, so we've got Grandfather's Joy. And this is, you can use this command ability in your hero phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Nurgle demon unit that is within 21 inches of this model, and 1 to the attack characteristics of all melee weapons used by that unit until your next hero phase. Yep, that's cool. Especially, you know, you pick like Plague Drone, something like that, just gives them even more attacks. You pick, I don't know, Beasts of Nurgle, you know, there's loads of different things you can go for just to give them more attack. Even just picking like a unit of Plague Bearers is good. Of course, I would say like Rotbringer stuff, but bear in mind this has to be demon stuff, so there is a difference there. But yeah, that's cool. We'll just put it on yourself. It's not bad either. Right, okay, and then magic. So Grey Unclean One is a wizard. It can attempt to cast 2 spells in your hero phase and attempt to unbind 2 spells in the enemy hero phase. It knows the Arcane Bowl, Mystic Shield, and Plague Wind spells. So looking at Plague Wind, so Plague Wind has casting value of 7. Successfully cast, pick a point on the battlefield within 14 inches of the caster and draw an imaginary straight line between it and the closest part of the caster. Each unit, friend or foe, crossed by the centre of the line suffers D3 mortal wounds. Unit with a Nurgle keyword are instead invigorated by the bile wind. It passes over them and heal D3 wounds that have been allocated to them. Cool, great way for you to do mortal wounds anyway, but I'm also looking at it as just a great way for you to just generally even heal even more wounds for your army. Yeah, it's a good spell. Casting value, you're looking at 7, the average on 2 dice. You cut into your flesh with the putrid offerings, get a +1 to cast. There you go, it means that you should more than likely get it off. Right, okay, and then keywords, so we've got Chaos Demon, Nurgle, Monster, Hero, Wizard, and Grey Unclean One. So there's many ways you can equip your Grey Unclean One, especially if you're taking quite a few, as there's that battalion, which we'll get to in a later video to talk about, which means that, it's a viable option. However, I would always give my one, if I was only taking one of my army, I would definitely give it the bell, just to give those +3 inches to movement. Really cannot be understated how good that is, especially how there is no wholly within range, just within 7, so you can easily clip things in so nicely. Yeah, definitely the bell, I can't understate how good that is. So yeah, that's the one I'd go for sure. Right, okay, and that leaves us with one war scroll left to review for the Demons of Nurgle within the Maggotkin of Nurgle Legions. And this, of course, is going to be very much like the one we just talked about, but it's the named character. And that, of course, has to be Rotkus. So, obviously, his minimum size units are 1, because he's a big fucking monster, isn't he? He costs you 340 points. He's a leader and a behemoth, and he is a unique character, so you can only have 1, and also can't take command traits or artifacts, anything like that. So, like I say, he is the named character of the Great Unclean One, and he's actually exactly the same amount of points, which is interesting, doesn't always seem to be the case. Usually the named character is more expensive than the standard one, which usually doesn't make any sense, because the standard one can take command traits and artifacts, which makes it better than the named character one, but the named character one's still more expensive points. Luckily, that's not the same for this one. So let's see what he's like on the table. So, looking at his war scroll, his description is Rotkus is a single model. He carries a gnaw rod that can be used to strike at his enemies that are nearby. A host of Nurglings caper about his feet, attacking with their razor-sharp teeth, while the fanged maw in his belly snaps and bite at his foes. So, looking at the will stats, exact same as the last one we just looked at. So 5-inch movement, 4+ save, bravery 10, 16 wounds. 16 wounds are very nice there. Then looking at the melee weapons, so the first one's the gnarl rod. So this is a 3-inch range, 5 attacks, hits on a 2 to start with, but will get harder as it is a star characteristic. Wounds on a 3, -1 rend, 2 damage. Not bad there, because you get 5 attacks, remember. The next one we've got is the Fanged Maw. So this is a 1-inch range, D3 attacks, 3 to hit, 2s to wound, but that's a star characteristic to wound there, so that will get harder as time goes on. -2 rend and 2 damage. The next thing we've got is the Host of Nurgle. So again, this 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 5 to hit, 5 to wound, no rend, 1 damage. So the attacks, they're good. They're not bad. If you compare them to another big monster, like, they're not the most powerful attack, shall we say, for his monster class, if you like. And that's the same with the Great Unclean One as well. But they are more durable, as, we can already tell. So, and then going into its abilities, we've got Blubber and Bile. So this is what I've just rolled before, which gives you Disgusting Resilience. However, when you roll 6 with Disgusting Resilience, that enemy unit suffers mortal wounds for those 6s you roll. So that's good. We've got the same ability as well for the Competent and Mass, which allows you to heal D3 wounds in your hero phase. That is good. We've got the Mountain of Loathsome Flesh, which is the same one as we saw before. Which again, so roll a dice for each enemy unit that is within 1 inch of Rotkus after he completes a charge move. On a 4+, the enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Okay, and then the next one we've got is Steams of the Brackish Filth. So in your hero phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit that is within 6 inches of Rotkus. On a 4+, the enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If the enemy unit can fly, it suffers D3 mortal wounds on a 6 instead of a 4. So just bear that in mind. Things like eels, crypt horrors, all those other things. You know, it's harder for it to get off, but you can still get it on a 6. And just for most other things, it's pretty good. Especially if it's 6 inches. It's not like you have to be in combat with it. It's double that range. So yeah, that's not too bad. Then magic. So Roticus is a wizard. You can attempt to cast 2 spells in your hero phase and attempt to unbind 2 spells in the enemy hero phase. He knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Deluge of Nurgle spells. So Deluge of Nurgle. So Deluge of Nurgle has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, roll 7 dice for each roll that equals or beats the Deluge of Nurgle roll shown in the unit's downward table above. So just so you know, it starts on a 4+. So what that means is you roll those 7 dice, and then to start with, for each 4+ you get, you pick an enemy unit that is visible to the caster, so visible to Roticus. That enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If the spell affects more than one enemy unit, you must pick a different enemy unit to suffer each set of D3 mortal wounds each time. So, yep, that is like limited, because obviously you can't just stack on something, but if you could stack on something, then that means you could just nuke it, which means fair enough, you know, I understand that. Also, spreading it out, it's not always bad, because it means if you just target, you know, like enemy support heroes that have got 5 wounds, something like that, and you start doing like 2 or 3 mortal wounds to them, you know, if you get lucky, and then the enemy might have, I don't know, a spell or ability to be able to heal a friendly unit if they're lucky, like D3 wounds or something. Now they're going to have to think, which one am I going to heal? Also, I really need that support hero to stay alive. I need that one. If this guy does this spell again, he could wipe them out in 2 turns. You know, it just shows that how impactful this could be. It makes your opponent have to think a lot more. And again, how many times, the more problems you pose to your opponent, the more likely he is going to make a mistake, and you can take full advantage of it. So that's that. And also, there's no range to this, just invisible on the battlefield. That's super cool. The more damage this guy does take, it's going to be harder for you to get off. But what you're going to remember is that he can heal a lot of wounds. So it's very good there. And it only goes to needing to roll a 6+ when he's taking 10 to 12 wounds. So you've got a long way to go there, and especially how survivable this guy is. So that's that. Going on to keywords, we've got Chaos Demon, Nurgle, Monster, Hero, Wizard, and Great Unclean One, and then a Roticus. So if we compare Roticus to a normal Great Unclean One, because obviously it's the same kit, that comparison is going to happen. And they're the same points as well. Right, I would personally say Great Unclean One. If you only got one Great Unclean One, I would take with the bell. Even with Roticus in the ring, I still take the Great Unclean One standardly with the bell, 100%. If I had 2, I would probably take Roticus. And the reason for that is just because he's my favourite looking one. I think he's much cooler than the normal Great Unclean One. I like the whole sort of like hood he's got going on. I think it's cool. Yeah, like, you know, rule of cool, I'd have to be Roticus, but if I'm thinking properly, it would have to be the Great Unclean One with the bell, especially for competitive play. That's how it's going to have to be. Right, guys, so with that, that is the last unit reviewed for the Demons of Nurgle within the Maggotkin of Nurgle Allegiance. Before we go into, like, the Tuckerman's Horde, you know, Pestilence for, you know, Skaven, Beasts of Chaos we'll look at as well, but the next video is going to be the Battalions. And the reason we're going to look at the Battalions for Maggotkin of Nurgle is because that ties up the book nicely. Like, everything you get in the book is going to be reviewed by then, and then we can move on to the, like Tamarkan Horde, or Tamarkan, however it's pronounced, Clan Pestilence, and then Beast of Chaos. Then we can move on to that, and it just feels a better flow of things, I think. Let me know if you guys disagree, if you think it's a good way to do it. And yeah, guys, so that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you did, please like, subscribe, and comment down below, as that does all massively help support this video, and it's absolutely free for you guys to do so. If you'd like to support the channel a step further, I've now got a Patreon account, which is a great way for the channel to get some support, and it really helps towards getting things like battle tomes, also a camera or a better microphone. It really does help me to be able to justify the time I put into the channel. And on that note, I'd like to thank my 4 Vampire tier patrons, and these are going to be Max, Martin, Carl, and Simon. Again, guys, thank you very much for your continued support. You've seen already how it can help out by, you know, like just the battle tomes I've been buying for the channel, and also the downwards cam thing I got to try out yesterday, what is cool. And also I'll be doing another live stream later tonight where I'll be revealing a new project I've got for the channel. And when I say project for the channel, I mean something I'm going to be working on in the live stream videos for you all to see. It's quite cool. We're very much looking forward to working on it, and that's going to be starting tonight. So if you are around, make sure you do watch that. Right, so there is that sort of stuff. But guys, honestly, if you can't support me on Patreon, that's absolutely fine. The main thing is I'm just really glad that you came and checked out this video today, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And on that note, guys, remember, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.